The voice on the radio crackled through the ICU at 0300 hours, and Dr. Sarah Chen's hands stopped mid-suture. We need Raven. Someone get me Raven. Now. 72 hours earlier, the graveyard shift at St. Catherine's Medical Center had a particular quality of silence, the kind that felt like holding your breath underwater. Sarah Chen moved through the ICU's dim corridors in her faded navy scrubs, a ghost among the machinery. Her dark hair was pulled into a messy bun secured with a single worn elastic and a cheap ballpoint pen. At 29, she perfected the art of being forgettable. Chen, can you handle the new admit in 12? Charge nurse Patricia didn't wait for an answer, already turning back to her computer. MVA, multiple trauma. Probably be here all night. Sure. Sarah's voice was soft, unremarkable. She grabbed the chart and moved toward room 12, her sneakers silent on the polished floor. The ICU hummed with its familiar symphony, ventilators sighing, monitors beeping their steady rhythms, the occasional alarm that nobody rushed toward because they all knew which ones actually mattered. Sarah had learned to read this place like music, the way she'd once read the chaos of a field hospital in Kandahar, the way she'd read the silence before an ambush in the Karangal Valley. That life was supposed to be over. Room 12's patient was young, maybe 25, unconscious and intubated. The chart said motorcycle versus truck, blunt force trauma to the chest, possible spinal involvement. Routine for a Friday night in downtown Chicago. Sarah washed her hands and gloved up, her movements economical and precise. She checked his pupils, assessed his breathing, adjusted his foredrip. Her hands were steady despite the bone-deep exhaustion that had lived in her body for 2 years. Since she'd left the agency. Since she'd traded field medicine and black operations for the mundane predictability of civilian nursing. You're good with the tough cases, Patricia observed from the doorway. Morrison was asking about you earlier. Wanted to know your background. Sarah's pulse quickened fractionally. Not much to tell. State school, couple years in county hospital. Nothing special. Patricia studied her with shrewd eyes. You've got hands like a surgeon. Ever think about going back to school? No. The word came out too quickly. Sarah softened it with a tired smile. I like bedside care. Helping people. If only she knew what those hands had really done. Sarah was restocking the crash cart at 0245 when the elevator chimed. She glanced up out of habit, assessing, always assessing, and felt her stomach drop. 3 men in suits stepped out, followed by 2 in military dress uniforms. Navy. The older officer had 3 stars on his shoulder boards. Vice Admiral. The younger one walked with the particular grace of special operations, weight on the balls of his feet, eyes scanning, hands loose and ready. They moved like operators because they were operators. Sarah turned away, focusing intently on organizing medications she'd already organized twice. Her heart hammered against her ribs. We need to speak with your ICU director, the Admiral said to Patricia. It's urgent. National security matter. Dr. Morrison is on break, but wake him up. The Admiral's voice carried the weight of someone used to being obeyed. We have a situation developing. We need immediate access to your facilities and complete discretion. Sarah kept her head down, counting supplies, invisible, the way she'd been invisible for 2 years. Of course, Admiral. Patricia's voice had gone nervous. Can I ask what? Classified. One of the suits stepped forward. You'll be briefed on a need-to-know basis. Right now, we need to secure this floor. How many patients do you have? 12. But I can't just. You can and you will. The Admiral moved further into the unit, his eyes sweeping the space. We have an asset inbound. Critically injured. The President himself authorized this facility. Your hospital administrator has already been contacted. Sarah's hands tightened on the medication box. Asset. Black site operation. Whatever was coming wasn't going to be in any official record. The younger SEAL was moving through the unit now, clearing sight lines. His eyes passed over Sarah without recognition, just another tired nurse in baggy scrubs. She'd cut her hair since Virginia, lost 20 pounds from stress and forgetting to eat, changed her name from Mitchell to her mother's maiden name. She was nobody. She'd make sure of it. We need your best people, the Admiral was saying. Your top trauma surgeon, your best critical care nurse. This man cannot die. Do you understand? Cannot. Dr. Morrison is excellent, and we have several. The radio on the suit's hip crackled. Inbound in 15 minutes. Patient is coding. I repeat, patient is coding. We're losing him. The Admiral's jaw tightened. God damn it. Someone get me your best field trauma specialist. Someone who's actually seen combat medicine. Silence. Patricia looked helpless. This is a civilian hospital. We don't. Then we're going to lose him. The Under SEAL's voice was tight. Sir, we need Raven. We need to pull her out of wherever the hell Langley buried her and get her here now. Sarah's blood turned to ice. Raven's gone dark. One of the suits said quietly. 2 years, no contact. For all we know, she's alive. The SEAL's voice carried absolute certainty. Raven doesn't quit. Doesn't die. She's out there somewhere. The Admiral checked his watch. We don't have time. Get the patient here and pray your people are good enough. Sarah stood frozen at the medication card, her mind racing. 14 minutes until they brought in whoever was dying. Probably an operative from one of her old missions. Someone who knew her face, her real name. Someone who might call out for Raven while conscious. She could leave. Walk out. Let whatever happen happen. But Raven didn't quit. Sarah Chen took a slow breath and turned around. I can help, she said quietly. The Admiral turned toward her, irritated. Miss, we need you to clear this area. I'm ICU certified. Trauma background. I can handle critical cases. Sarah kept her voice level, unremarkable. If you need someone who won't panic, I'm available. The younger SEAL was studying her now with the focused attention of a trained operator. Sarah kept her posture neutral, submissive even. Just another nurse volunteering for overtime. Fine. The Admiral dismissed her with a glance. Patricia, get her set up in room 4. Full trauma kit. We'll need blood products standing by, sir. The SEAL stepped closer to Sarah, his eyes narrowing. Where did you do your trauma training? County General. Cook County. The lie came easily. She'd spent 6 weeks there once, years ago, establishing the legend. 3 years in their trauma bay. I've seen gunshot wounds, stabbings, blast injuries from industrial accidents. Blast injuries. He said it slowly, testing. What's your procedure for traumatic hemothorax in an austere environment? Sarah's mind flashed to a compound in Fallujah, a wounded asset bleeding out. No equipment except what she'd carried. Needle decompression at the second intercostal space, midclavicular line. If tension is severe and you don't have a chest tube, improvise with whatever hollow bore needle you can find. I've used 4 catheters in a pinch. The SEAL's expression shifted fractionally. You've done that? In a county hospital? We get creative when trauma bays are full. Sarah met his eyes. Your patient, what's his status? Multiple GSWs to the torso, possible spinal involvement, severe blood loss. He was shot during extraction in. The SEAL caught himself. Classified. Copy. The word slipped out before Sarah could stop it. Military terminology, automatic response. The SEAL's eyes widened slightly. Copy. Sorry. I mean understood. Sarah turned away, her heart racing. Sloppy. 2 years of careful cover nearly blown by habit. The radio crackled again. 10 minutes out. Patient is stabilized but critical. He keeps asking for Raven. Says we need to find Raven. Sarah's hands clenched. Whoever was coming in knew her. Probably worked with her. Damascus, maybe, or the Pakistan border operation. Someone who could ID her voice, her hands, the particular way she ran a trauma. The SEAL was still watching her. Raven was a CIA combat medic. Best field doctor in the agency. Saved more assets than anyone else in the program. You ever hear of her? No. Sarah moved toward room 4, starting to set up. Should I have? Probably not. Whole program was black. But the legend was, she could keep you alive through anything. Multiple casualties, no equipment, under direct fire. She never lost a patient she touched. He paused. Never broke. Never cracked. Just disappeared 2 years ago. Psych eval said burnout, but nobody believed it. Sarah pulled on fresh gloves, her movements automatic. People break all the time. It's the ones who don't that you have to worry about. The SEAL laughed without humor. Yeah, that's what Raven used to say. The elevator chimed. Sarah turned to see a gurney rushing out, surrounded by men in tactical gear. The patient was intubated, unconscious, his face obscured by equipment. Blood soaked through pressure bandages on his chest. Room 4, the Admiral shouted. Move. They transferred him to the ICU bed, and Sarah moved in immediately, her hands working before her mind caught up. She checked his airway, assessed breathing, palpated his chest for tension. Old training took over. Triage, stabilize, prioritize. He needs surgery, she said calmly. These wounds are too extensive for ICU management alone. Where's your trauma surgeon? En route. Dr. Morrison burst through the doors, looking disheveled and frightened. What the hell is happening? The hospital administrator called me, said the Department of Defense. Brief later. Patient now. Sarah cut him off without thinking, her voice carrying command authority that made Morrison blink. She was assessing the GSWs when the patient's eyes flickered open. His hand shot out, gripping her wrist with surprising strength. Raven, he whispered through the breathing tube. Need? Raven. Sarah froze. The hand on her wrist bore scars she recognized, burn marks from an IED in Mosul. She treated him there 3 years ago. Pulsine, Prophet. CIA field officer, one of the good ones. Easy, she murmured, her voice barely audible. You're safe. Prophet's eyes focused on her face with difficulty. Sarah? Sarah Mitchell. The room went absolutely silent. The younger SEAL moved fast, his hand going to his sidearm. Ma'am, step away from the patient. He's crashing. Sarah's eyes were on the monitor, where Prophet's pressure was dropping. You can shoot me after I save him. She's Raven. The SEAL's voice was tight. Admiral, that's Raven. I don't care if she's the ghost of Christmas past, the Admiral snapped. Can she save him? Sarah looked at Prophet, at the blood spreading across fresh bandages, at the monitor showing pressure dropping toward shock range, at the man who'd once carried her 3 miles through hostile territory when she'd broken her ankle during extraction. Yes, she said quietly. But not here. He needs an or now. Dr. Morrison, can you scrub? Morrison looked between her and the armed man. Yes, but then move. Patricia, call surgical, tell them we're coming up. I need ONEG blood, for units standing by, and someone to prep a chest tube kit. Sarah's voice had changed completely, no longer soft and forgettable, but carrying the absolute authority of someone who'd run field hospitals under mortar fire. You're giving orders now. Morrison sputtered. Yes. Sarah began moving the bed toward the elevator. Unless you want to explain to the president why his asset died while you stood around asking questions. The Admiral nodded sharply. Do what she says. Everyone else, secure this floor. Nobody in or out until we're clear. Sarah pushed Prophet toward the elevator, the SEAL moving with her. In the confined space, he spoke quietly. You really her? Raven. Used to be. Sarah watched the floor numbers climb. Now I'm just a nurse. You disappeared. They said you couldn't handle it anymore. Too many casualties, too many. I couldn't. Sarah cut him off. That's why I left. I was saving people to balance out the ones I'd helped kill. But it was never going to balance. So I just stopped. The elevator opened to the surgical floor. Sarah pushed Prophet toward or 3, already scrubbing in her mind. Why come back now? The SEAL asked. Sarah looked at Prophet's unconscious face. Because he carried me once. And Raven doesn't quit. The surgery took 4 hours. Sarah worked alongside Dr. Morrison, her hands moving with the precision of someone who'd performed field operations in conditions that would make civilian doctors quit. 3 GSWs, 1 through the shoulder, 1 grazing the liver, 1 lodged near the spine. Retract here, she directed quietly. See that bleeder? Clamp it. Morrison followed her instructions without question now, watching her work with something like awe. Where did you learn to do this? Places that don't exist. Sarah extracted the bullet near the spine with movements so delicate Morrison held his breath. In rooms that weren't on any map. Saving people who were never officially there. The bullet came free. No spinal damage. Prophet would walk. Vitals stabilizing, the anesthesiologist announced. Sarah stepped back, letting Morrison close. Her hands were shaking now. Delayed response to adrenaline. Old familiar feeling. She stripped off her gloves and surgical gown, suddenly exhausted. In the scrub room, the younger SEAL was waiting. Up close, she could see his name tape. Harrison. His eyes were sharp, intelligent. That was impressive, Harrison said. Morrison's supposed to be the best trauma surgeon in Chicago. You made him look like a resident. He is the best. I just had different training. Sarah washed her hands, scrubbing harder than necessary. How did you know Prophet? He was my handler. 2 years ago, Yemen operation. You pulled him out of that one too, didn't you? Sarah nodded slowly. His appendix ruptured during a dead drop. I had to operate in a safe house with kitchen knives and vodka for antiseptic. Jesus. Harrison leaned against the wall. They told stories about you. Said you were half medic, half magician. That you could save anyone. He paused. They also said you had a breakdown after the Mosul bombing. Lost 32 people in one night. Sarah's hands stilled in the water. 34. 2 more died later. I counted. That wasn't your fault. I know. But knowing doesn't help. She dried her hands carefully. I spent 8 years saving people the CIA put in danger. Patching up assets so they could go back out and maybe die the next time. I was enabling a machine that chewed people up. She met his eyes. So I stopped being part of it. And became a nurse. And became someone who helps people who aren't involved in the game. Who just got unlucky. Car accidents, heart attacks, strokes. Randomness instead of operations. Sarah pulled off her surgical cap. It's honest work. The Admiral appeared in the doorway. Miss Mitchell, or is it Chen? Chen. I had my name legally changed. Sarah faced him squarely. Sarah Mitchell died 2 years ago. The agency would like her back. We need field medics with your skill set. There's a team heading to, he caught himself. Classified. But we need you. No. The word was firm. I'm done with that life. You saved Prophet's life tonight. That's exactly why. I saved him because he's my friend. Because I owed him. That doesn't change what I am now. Sarah moved toward the door. I'm a nurse, Admiral. I worked the graveyard shift at a civilian hospital. I help people who don't know my real name and don't care about my past. That's all I want to be. Harrison stepped forward. Raven. Sarah, you're wasted here. What you can do, what you know. What I know is that I've saved enough people in the darkness. I want to save them in the light now. She paused at the door. Prophet's going to recover. He'll need physical therapy for the shoulder, but he'll be fine. Tell him when he wakes up that we're even now. The Admiral studied her for a long moment. The agency doesn't just let people walk away. They did 2 years ago. My psych eval was legitimate. I had PTSD, depression, survivor's guilt. They pensioned me out with an honorable discharge and enough money to finish nursing school. Sarah's voice softened. I'm not a threat. I'm not selling secrets or going rogue. I'm just trying to live a normal life. Nothing about you is normal. Harrison said quietly. Sarah almost smiled. Maybe not. But I'm trying. She walked back through the hospital in the pre-dawn darkness, past the secured floor where armed men stood guard, past the ICU where Patricia was frantically fielding calls from administration, back to the medication cart where this had all started 3 hours ago. DR. Morrison found her there at 0600, just as the day's shift was arriving. Chen. He sat down heavily in the chair beside her. I don't even know what that was. That was me doing my job. Sarah logged her medications. Just like every other night. Your CIA was past tense. Morrison ran a hand through his hair. The Admiral said I can't tell anyone. National security. But Sarah, you're the best nurse I've ever worked with. Even before I knew about whatever you were. The way you move, the way you think. You should be teaching, directing, leading. I like being invisible, Sarah said quietly. I like being the night nurse nobody really sees. It's peaceful. Is it? Morrison's eyes were kind. You look exhausted. Like you haven't slept in years. 2 years. Sarah closed her eyes briefly. Since I left. Maybe you left the wrong way. Maybe instead of hiding what you were, you should figure out how to be both. He stood up. Think about it. The day shift nurse arrived to take report. Sarah handed over her patients, gave updates in her soft, forgettable voice. Just another graveyard shift ending. She was walking to her car when Harrison caught up with her. Prophet's awake, he said. He's asking for you. Sarah hesitated, then nodded. They walked back inside in silence. Prophet was in recovery, intubated but conscious. His eyes tracked to her face, and he tried to smile around the tube. Sarah took his hand. You're going to be fine. Full recovery, probably 3 months. He squeezed her hand weakly and gestured for something to write with. Harrison handed him a tablet, and Prophet's shaking hand spelled out. Thank you, Raven. Sarah, she corrected gently. I'm Sarah now. Prophet deleted the text and typed again, still my Raven. Sarah felt something crack open in her chest. Grief. Maybe. A recognition. She'd spent 2 years trying to bury Raven, but Raven was still there. Still the person who couldn't walk away from someone dying. Okay, she whispered. Still your Raven. Just nobody else's. Prophet's eyes closed, exhausted. Sarah checked his vitals one more time, adjusted his 4, and stepped back. Outside the recovery room, The Admiral was waiting. Last chance. There's a team deploying in 72 hours. We could use. No. But Sarah's voice was gentler now. But if you need consultation, medical planning, remote support, I'll consider it. From here. Civilian side. The Admiral's eyebrows rose. Consulting. I'm a nurse. I work nights. But if there's a way to help people without being back in the field. She paused. Maybe Morrison's right. Maybe I don't have to be all one thing or all the other. Harrison smiled slightly. Raven's back. No. Sarah shook her head. But Sarah Chun knows how to consult. On her terms. The Admiral nodded slowly. We'll be in touch. Sarah walked out of St. Catherine's Medical Center into the rising sun. She was still wearing her faded scrubs, hair falling out of its bun, looking every bit the exhausted night nurse finishing a long shift. But something had shifted. She didn't have to hide anymore. Didn't have to be invisible. She could be both, the healer and the warrior, the nurse and the medic, Sarah and Raven. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Thank you. For everything. For carrying me when I couldn't walk. Sarah deleted it and looked up at the morning sky. Tomorrow night, she'd be back on shift, moving through the ICU like a ghost. But now she knew, when the moment came, when someone needed Raven, she'd still be there. And maybe that was exactly where she needed to be. Sarah Chun climbed into her ancient Toyota and drove home through the morning traffic. In 12 hours, she'd be back in her scrubs, invisible again among the machines and monitors. But invisible didn't mean powerless. And sometimes the people nobody noticed were the ones who saved everything. She'd saved Prophet's life tonight. Saved herself too, maybe. It was a start.